I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. You may know me from Town Hall, where I'm a senior columnist. I write there every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And if you are a Town Hall VIP, you can get my special stream of courteousness videos now twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. They can get a little salty, but that's what you'd expect from a retired Army infantry colonel, which I was. I was also a Los Angeles trial lawyer. I'm the author of a bunch of books, including American Apocalypse, Second American Civil War, The Attack, and the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels, starting with People's Republic. I'm writing the 9th one as we speak, if you can believe it. I came up and started this business when Andrew Breitbart sucked me in and made me start writing for Big Hollywood, and I haven't left. And here I am, sitting in this chair on the Salem News Channel, Salem Radio Network, guest hosting for Hugh Hewitt, who I have listened to for, pretty much since he started on the radio on Salem, well over 25 years ago. Right, Dwayne? It's over 25 years? Yeah, I think it's over 25 years.
25 years and 6 months.
I feel so old. I also feel scared because it's Halloween, folks. It is Halloween out there. So, of course, when you're driving tonight, watch out for all the little spooks and ghosties and enjoy our Halloween-themed bumper music. Normally, I have hardcore 80s post-punk power pop is my bumper music because that's kind of my trademark. But we're gonna go on the spooky side this time. It's going to be amazing. But you know what else I'm scared of? Not just spooks and ghosties. I'm scared of Democrats running rampant, destroying our country. Look at what they're doing. Look at the shutdown. It's, 31 days? 31 days where they've refused to vote for the clean CR. Was it 14 times? No, that's the Republicans' fault. See, we're not voting for the thing, and it's your fault because you didn't give us free stuff. And free stuff, well, that's kind of a continuing theme with the Democrats. And stuffing their own side seems to be a theme too. Let me hip you to what Axios put out in a recent tweet. Now, Axios, sometimes it's kind of a liberal publication, very connected with the Democrats. We have some folks we like over there. Mark Caputo, of course, frequent guest when I'm a guest host, is over there. But, if they're talking Republicans, maybe grain of salt. If they're talking to Democrats, they've got the contacts. Here's what they're saying. There's a sense within the Senate Democrat caucus that next week will bring forth significant movement toward ending the government shutdown. Multiple sources told Axios. Likely after Election Day on Tuesday. Wait, what? What, we're going to wait for Election Day? We're going to hold on. Why don't you do it today? Oh, right, because it's Election Day. It's Election Day in Virginia, where you want to get the former Democrat representative from Stepford, Abigail Spanberger. She's running for governor to replace Glenn Youngkin, who was astonishingly good. And, Spanberger, she's, wind her up. And it's abortion, 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 abortion. Also, men in women's locker rooms. That's Spanberger. And, of course, she's got her attorney general candidate who literally wants to murder her political opponents after them watching their children die. So that controversial but innovative platform, I don't know, it needs all the help it can get. So the Democrats' plan, of course, is to keep the base activated. And in Northern Virginia, the base is government workers. And they're not going to lift this miserable shutdown anytime before then. So if you are a military person or a government worker or someone getting SNAP benefits, you get nothing because the Democrats don't want to alienate their base and make them mad before next Tuesday. Also, it's happening over in New Jersey. Mikey Sherrill, who you might not have heard, but she went to Annapolis, and if she had her way, you wouldn't have heard. She wasn't allowed to walk across the stage because of her involvement in a cheating scandal, is running against Jack Ciattarelli, and it's a very close race. And, the Democrats are kind of hoping, let's leverage, or as their New England Democrat Blue Noses say, leverage, the power of pain to help the Democrats win those elections. So they're holding off. They are holding off on voting for a clean CR, but they are going to fold like a house of cards because what's Chuck Schumer's alternative? Look, I went to the Army War College, okay? I got a master's degree in strategic studies. Now, admittedly, the Army War College is the Chico State of war colleges. It's a party war college. But I still like to think I know a little about strategy. Here is what I would not do if I was a Democrat strategist. I would not put the party that doesn't like government in a position where it gets to shut down the government or keep the government shut down and somehow expect the party that doesn't like government to give more government to the party that does like government in order to get the party that does like government to allow the government to reopen. That's not how threats work. I was a Los Angeles trial lawyer. I know how threats work. Typically, traditionally, you threaten something the other side doesn't want. And people are getting sick of it. Yesterday, Teamster President Sean O'Brien at a White House presser with the great and future president, J.D. Vance. Cut number one.
Look, the bottom line, and we took a position, I represent 1.3 million working men and women in this country for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. We took a position 3 weeks ago. Pass a clean CR, get to the table, negotiate a deal. Do not put working people in the middle of a problem they should not be in there. And we got to think about the families that are going to be affected. Think about when you have to tell your son or daughter they can't play sports because you're not getting paid. Think about when you can't pay your mortgage. Think about when you can't pay your tuition. Put the politics aside, get to the table, negotiate a deal, pass a clean CR right now, and then figure out the problems moving forward. And I want to thank the air traffic controllers. I want to thank the aviation administration for all their hard work and sacrifice they make. And look, security and safety of the airlines is paramount. Let's not compromise the safety and security. Pass a clean CR. Thank you.
Now, again, this is the head of the Teamsters Union standing in a Republican White House next to a Republican vice president as he says those things. Okay. I'm a conservative Republican. I am not traditionally known as a supporter of unions. But the guys that Sean O'Brien is representing, they feed us, they fuel us, they make our country go. And these guys are getting hurt. And a lot of families are our military is getting hurt because of this. But no. We got to make it about politics. Hold on at least 5 more days. I mean, I can imagine the Democrats doing it, lifting it on next Wednesday. I mean, nothing's too obvious for them. But the pain is getting too much for some people. Take another Democrat, John Fetterman. This is cut number 5.
When I'm back in Western Pennsylvania, I'm absolutely going to encounter people that are depending on SNAP. And if they ask me, it's like, this is an empty card. I've got 3 kids to feed. Why? What? I don't have an answer other than, we failed. We have failed. And it's like, that is like, that's appalling. That's appalling.
Now, that's Democrat John Fetterman. He's sitting on, if you can't see, he's sitting on a bench with Senator Dave McCormick, very good friend of this show, both senators from Pennsylvania, standing shoulder to shoulder saying, we've got to stop this because it's hurting our people. I got to tell you, John Fetterman is never going to leave the Senate until John Fetterman decides he wants to. I'd love to have a Republican in there, but man, this guy speaks to the real people who are suffering real pain because of the real political calculations of the Democrats, including Chuck Schumer. And it's appropriate because it's Halloween. He's not scared of spooks. He's not scared of ghosties. He's not scared of goblins. Chuck Schumer is terrified. Cold, white knuckle sweat over AOC and her primary threat. Hey, I'm a poet or a rapper, whatever. And I'd like to welcome my pal Eli Lake. Holy cow. He's the Free Press contributor. He is the author of the Breaking History podcast, which I just listened to, and we will certainly talk about. Eli, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kurt. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Okay, I can't avoid it as much as I'd like because you and I have talked offline about this, and I wouldn't say I was defending Tucker because he's not mine to defend, and I only defend people when they pay me my outrageous hourly legal rate. But you've been very concerned about Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, and now they've come together in a recent podcast.
But I could have told you that was coming.
You did tell me that was coming. And I was like, are you sure? And you're like, oh, I'm sure. And you were right. What do you think? I have not listened to it yet. I will listen to it while I drive to Houston this weekend.
I am finishing my file for the Free Press, so you're catching me as I'm on a deadline. But I will tell you that it's not good. To me, the story isn't about I think it's a left-wing concept of platforming. I think if you can have Nick Fuentes on your show, but ask him some hard questions. Don't pretend, give him, the Ted Cruz treatment where, it was a very hostile and aggressive interview. That none of that was there with this interview. And what we saw was, I think a number of people, like my Ambassador Huckabee, responded to some comments from Tucker saying that Christian Zionism is a mind virus, which is insane. And
where does that come from? Because I'm a Christian. I guess I'm a Zionist because I believe Israel should be a Jewish state. Am I infected with a mind virus, or am I just a sane, normal human being with a sense of decency?
It's obviously the latter. But according to Tucker Carlson, he says he's offended he considers it a heresy as a Christian. And I'm like, you know what, dude?
Okay, well.
Give me a break. But anyway, like Huckabee, put him on blast, kind of did a little X post, and other people have come out for it. But I'll tell you, and I don't know, where you want to go on this, but there was a video put out last night by Kevin Roberts, the president of the Heritage Foundation, putting on his cape and defending Tucker's honor, which I think is even more disturbing because there's going to be Nick Fuentes, the Groypers, they are there, but it's up to the leaders of the conservative movement, it's up to the leaders of the Republican Party to draw a line saying that's not us. Now, we have a real-life example of what happens when that doesn't happen. It's called New York City, because they're about to elect a socialist named Zohran Mamdani, because the Democratic Party couldn't get it together to say, no, thanks. We're not a bunch of Marxist-Leninists over here. We're still a Democratic Party, and we believe things and we're different, and we don't want you to be defining us.
Well, that brings us to your Breaking History podcast.
Yes.
On Mamdani and the history of the Democrat Socialists of America. And I'm a pretty in tune guy. I know a couple things. I learned a lot from it. It was a great podcast. So yeah, it was really, really important and it gave a really good background on it. This guy is not a discrete event. He is the culmination of decades of socialist transformation, because the Democratic Socialists were at one point anti-communist.
The founder of the Democratic Socialists of America is a guy that you and I would say, oh, he's a lib. He loves Lyndon Johnson's Great Society program. He wants to take all our money and taxes and spend it. We would have a normal debate with Michael Harrington, who's the founder of DSA, but he went to his grave as a staunch anti-communist and a staunch pro-Israel Zionist. And he made it clear that our new party, even though he invited in the radicals of the radicals, his idea was we can tame them. We can bring them into the tent and we can tame them and make them, come around to how we see the world. And he was wrong. And he was wrong, I think, in the moment, but he's obviously wrong today, because the DSA, as I said, really I don't even know if it's a socialist organization anymore. It's like the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. They are obsessed with Israel. They considered October 7th to be a glorious act of resistance. It's crazy, out of the mainstream, cuckoo stuff, but that's the party of Mamdani. And we can tell ourselves a bunch of happy talk stories about how, Mamdani is going to have to govern and everything like that. Mamdani joined the DSA because it was this radical organization that hated Israel. That's why he says it himself, as I play in the podcast. So I would turn it around and I would say, looking at the American right, looking at the MAGA coalition, looking at the Republican Party in 2025, I believe that they're faced with a very similar choice as a Michael Harrington and the Democrats, which is, if you think you can bring in Nick Fuentes and the Groypers into the big conservative tent, you've got another thing coming, because they're organized, they're radicals, they're not conservatives, they're revolutionaries, they're national socialists. And if you let them in, they will take over. And that's what happened to the DSA. It's what happened to other left-wing organizations. And we can see it right now. It's going to happen to the Democratic Party as they're letting in these socialists. If we don't want the right to go down that road, then you got to kind of draw the line now. And sadly, I'm seeing a lot of ambivalence and, frankly, a little cowardice on the part of some of the leaders of the right and the party. Not everyone. There are some people who've been terrific on this, but I think it's time to say it is, in the words of the great Ronald Reagan, it's a time for choosing.
Well, look, what exactly do you mean by drawing a line? Because there is an element of the Republican Party, of the conservative movement, that seems to love flagellating itself over potential heresies. There's nothing it enjoys more than casting out people, whether they be John Birch or Pat Buchanan or whoever else, or people who like Donald Trump. And that is a real thing, and that's something I think we need to be cautious of, because I don't have time for that. But on the other hand, my party is not the party of idiots like that malignant rodent Nick Fuentes or any of his disgusting ilk. And I speak of a guy whose biggest problem with Israel is they haven't been cruel or ruthless enough to the Palestinians.
Well, okay, so let me say this. It's not just about Israel, okay? It's about who we are as Americans and what do we mean when we say we're conservatives. And what I mean by this is that there are things that can be done. When I say drawing a line, J.D. Vance could give a speech tomorrow in which he said something like, I believe as a Christian in our values in this country, that we accept our fellow, our Jews as an Abrahamic faith, and that he then says something along the lines of, while I believe we have an immigration problem, America is an idea. It is not a country, not a blood and soil nation for only white Christians. That is something that J.D. Vance, I imagine, believes. He married a beautiful Indian woman, Usha, who's now Usha Vance. His kids are mixed race. And I believe that he could say something like that, and it would make a huge difference. And say, we're not a party of haters and bigots.
Eli Lake of the Free Press, we could go on and on about this, and I really appreciate your take, because this is something the Republican Party and the conservative movement needs to face. How we face it, well, that remains to be seen. I'm mixing my dual loves, Halloween music and 80s post-pop punk. It's a little psychedelic first there with their great hit off Mirror Moves, Ghost in You. Terrific song. Brings me back to college. Those carefree days. But now I'm an adult, and life isn't so carefree. The International Fellowship of Christian Jews. Today's a very special day, not because it's Halloween, but because you can help here on this final day of Hugh's campaign to help the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Earlier, Yael Eckstein, president of Fellowship, offered this message to remind us about what our donations can do for Israel.
We have the ability to bless someone and give hope. And unfortunately, especially now after 2 years of war, after so many people have been in reserve duty and in the army, so many people have lost loved ones, lost their businesses. I've never seen a time where we had more people calling for food help, from elderly to families to children. And so we're on the ground. As soon as we get a donation, we get to go out to a widow from this war and say, there's a Christian in America who's not only praying for you, but is providing for you.
We're in our final hours here, but there's still time to go to HughHewitt.com, make a tax-deductible donation, $25, $50, whatever amount. Anything helps. You'll be assisting former hostages, their families, Jews in needs, by giving them medical care, life-saving essentials, and vital psychological support that they need to heal from the trauma and begin a new chapter of hope and restoration. Your gift is going to be doubled today, so your impact will be doubled. Make it happen on the final day of Hugh's campaign. Help them out right now. Go to the banner at the top of Hugh Hewitt's homepage at hughhewitt.com. Make your gift right there, or you can even call 800-429 or 492-1717. That's 800-492-1717. One more time, thank you from all of us here at the Hugh Hewitt Show. Now, in these times, nothing's more important than keeping in touch, communicating with others. consumercellular.com/Hugh. Look, once you switch to Consumer Cellular, he started noticing the savings. Let me ask you, have you looked at your cell phone bill lately? How much data are you really using compared to what you're paying for? What about those hidden fees, surcharges, rate increases that always just seem to pop up on your bill? Be proactive. Check your bill. Check out Consumer Cellular, where you truly get savings without sacrifice. Takes maybe 20 minutes to switch, and right now you'll get $25 off when you use the promo code HUGH25. Just call them 1-800-411-4454 or visit consumercellular.com/Hugh. New customers even get a $5 credit off each of their first of 5 invoices. Now, I'm no mathematician, but that sounds like $50 to me. Here's some of my listeners of 50 years and older love 2 unlimited lines for just $60. That's only $30 a line, unlimited. Easier way to better manage your cost of living, cut down on essential expenses. Don't wait. Get real savings without the sacrifice. Use promo code HUGH25 today or call 1-800-411-4454. Now, while we're talking electronics, how do you keep these scammers from ripping you off? WebRoot Total Protection. WebRoot.com/Hewitt. Every day there's a new trick, a new treat, a new scam designed to separate you from your money. That's the scariest part of October. It's not Halloween. It's those creeps out there trying to take your cash. This Cyber Scaries month, you need WebRoot Total Protection, our all-in-one product for individuals, 1 identity, 5 devices, and families, 10 identities, 10 devices, lightning-fast antiviruses to identify for identity theft protection with dark web monitoring, secure VPN, unlimited cloud backup. It's got it all. WebRoot Total Protection helps defend every part of your digital life. It also provides up to $1 million in fraud expense reimbursement. It gives you 24/7 U.S.-based customer support and new text scam detection. You're backed by protection that's built for today's threats. Change cyber scary to cyber secure. 60% off WebRoot Total Protection at www.webroot.com/Hewitt, HEWITT. That's 60% off for a limited time, but only when you go to www.webroot.com/Hewitt right now. Celebrate Cyber Scaries Month in confidence with WebRoot Total Protection today. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at Town Hall, former trial lawyer, Army colonel, and Christian Zionist. That's what I am. I'm a Christian. I'm a Zionist. I believe the Jewish people have a right, a duty, and an obligation to hold, and maintain a Jewish state in the land of Israel. I'm joined by Josh Hammer, who is author of an essential book, Israel and Civilization. He's also a Salem podcaster. Josh, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. I don't think you're going to find a harder core supporter of Israel than I am, and I don't. And I need to get your advice, because Tucker Carlson, a guy who I have had a lot of respect for, who has said a lot of things that I think are important, has also said something that I think is flat out crazy, which is Christian Zionism is a heresy. Putting aside that there's a different kind, that Christians have all sorts of different views of what Christianity takes. That's why there's a different church on every corner. We just go make our own if we don't like what our own church says. What can I do to respond to this as an American conservative Christian? How should I deal with it?
Well, Kurt, thanks for having me on, of course. It's always great to chat with you. Look, as an observant Jew, it's really not my place to tell Christians how to interpret the New Testament.
Well, I'm asking your advice.
Well, no,
'Cause I'm
fair
baffled.
enough. Look, I mean, I think what Tucker Carlson is doing, and Kurt, I mean, you and I have chatted about this both online and offline,
Yep.
as the case may be. I mean, I've been increasingly vocal. I mean, I have been one of those who have been, dare I say, at the tip of the spear of calling out Tucker repeatedly over the past year and a half-ish, give or take, as he has just continued aggressively and vociferously down this path. And the reason why it's so dangerous, Kurt, is it's not, contrary to what many people say, this is not about a public policy disagreement about Israel. We're not having a conversation about U.S. aid to Israel, which, by the way, I've been calling to wind down that aid for a decade, actually, but let's hold that aside for now. We're not having a conversation about that. We're having a conversation about, as Nick Fuentes put to Tucker Carlson, whether there is an organized Jewry, like organized Jewish cabal, as to whether or not there is a genocide or apartheid going on in Gaza. I mean, all these ludicrous things there that are not a nice public policy debate, but something just quite a bit substantially darker. I mean, some of his guests have been relitigating World War II, questioning whether or not the U.S. was actually wrong to oppose Hitler. I mean, this is off the charts, bat crap crazy stuff. So look, in my opinion, Kurt, the number one audience who Tucker Carlson is alienating right now are not Jews like me. They are Christians like yourself, because a plurality of the MAGA base, a plurality of conservatives in America are Christians on the one hand, and two, have generally warm views about the Jewish people and the Jewish state of Israel. Now, we can call that Christian Zionism, we can call it whatever theological or practical political viewpoint you want there, but a majority of Christians in America, especially a majority of Republican Party MAGA Christians, are not going down this rabbit hole of just totally bashing the Jewish people and the Jewish state. So, I'm waiting to see the rise up of I mean, the whole kind of Pastor Hagee crowd, right? Christians United for Israel there, and he's been outspoken. I'm not trying to pick on him, but Tucker's alienating here tens and tens and tens of millions of Christians there. So I think it's incumbent, frankly, on friends like you who are such avowed, staunch supporters to basically say, screw you, dude. I mean, just, I mean, go away. Like, this is nonsense.
Well, look, I've got mixed feelings. I'm not Tucker's friend. I met him once. I've been on some of his shows. I'm like the only guy in conservatism who doesn't have his phone number. But I like a lot of things he said in the past. I believe he's very honest and genuine when he talks about how normal Americans have been betrayed by their establishment. I believe he has a lot of resentment. I believe there is a lot of what my Scottish immigrant first-generation mom called a stuff disturber, except she wasn't FCC compliant. I think to some extent this is trolling, and I think he's too smart for the kind of vulgar anti-Semitism of a stupid rodent like a little malignant squirrel like Nick Fuentes. I'm also I also don't like the Republican habit of spending time figuring out who we should ostracize from the movement. I'm for platforming everybody. On the other hand, I think what he's saying, I think he's putting people on who have terrible ideas, and I've responded to those ideas in my columns and on the air. How far do we have to go to say, hey, I don't think any of this, and the majority of us Republicans and conservatives don't believe this either.
So here's the key thing, Kurt. The key thing is that the Christianity that built America, and I'm an observant Jew, and I will be the first to say that America was founded as a Christian nation. I mean, this was founded by generally pious, devout Christians. But the Christianity that built America and that has sustained America for nearly 2.5 centuries now is a philo-Semitic, Old Testament, Hebrew Bible-centric form in many ways of Christianity. I mean, look back to the Founding Fathers. I mean, Benjamin Franklin famously proposed that the national seal of the United States be Moses parting the Red Sea with the Israelites trailing behind. Look at the Liberty Bell. I mean, Tucker Carlson might want to pay a visit to Philadelphia. The Liberty Bell in Philadelphia doesn't have Aristotle or Cicero inscribed on the outside. It has the most quintessential of Old Testament books, Leviticus itself, chapter 25, verse 10, thou shalt proclaim liberty throughout the land and to all the inhabitants thereof. I mean, John Adams, our second president, famously says, he was a wonderful philo-Semite. He famously says that he insists that no people have done more to civilize the masses than the Hebrews because they introduced to all mankind that great unifying source of Western morality, the notion of a one true God. I mean, Abraham Lincoln, speaking of Americans as a, quote, almost chosen people. On and on and on I could go here. We could do hours on this, but That is the Christianity that sustained America. So much of our day-to-day lives, our moral foundation, our ethical foundation, even our political and legal framework. I mean, Kurt, you and I are both lawyers. I'll give you just one very common example. How many times have we heard these crazy leftists over the past few years, especially at the height of the Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, Democrat lawfare stuff? They say, no one is above the law. Well, I agree with that. But let's talk about where that principle comes from. The notion that the King of England or the President of the United States is not above the law literally goes back to Deuteronomy chapter 17.
You're so
Bible.
Correct, Josh, and we've got to close out. But I will point out, and I'm no theologian, but I do know that Jesus said, I am here not to repeal the law, but to bring it to fruition. And the law he was talking about, the law of the Old Testament. In a second, we're going to listen to a Democrat say something that's completely insane, if you can believe it. But first, I want to tell you about Americans for Free Market, forfreemarkets.org. Under the Obama and Biden administrations, regulators pressured banks to close accounts for industries and individuals they didn't like. This debanking trampled on the freedom of American businesses and citizens, putting government in the business of punishing people it disagreed with. Well, Donald Trump's taken decisive action to stop this nonsense. His executive order calls out regulators who abuse their power, makes clear that debanking must end once and for all. But it won't end once and for all until Congress acts. That's why Americans for Free Markets is thanking President Trump for standing up for freedom and urging Congress to follow his lead. Together, they can establish a national fair access standard to prevent services from being denied based on political, social, or religious views. This will bring clarity, consistency, and long overdue accountability to financial regulation. To protect the financial freedom of every American, Congress must build on President Trump's leadership, update outdated laws, codify his executive order. Americans for Free Market is calling on Congress to ensure the abuse of power can never happen again. Learn more at freemarkets.org. That's freemarkets.org. Okay, Representative Janelle Bynum is jumping in, giving Mazie Hirono a run for her money as maybe the dumbest legislator on Capitol Hill. She was on C-SPAN. She's an Oregon liberal. She's on C-SPAN. And here's what she said. Cut number 2.
They did have a clean CR vote on September 19th in the House. Did you vote for it?
I disagree with your characterization and want to make sure that we're very clear about what Republicans have been doing. Any bill that they've put forth, they've always had some extra stuff to it. There's always been a poison pill to it. So I disagree with your characterization.
What were the poison pills of the clean CR or the continuing resolution? You say it's not clean, that was voted on in the House in mid-September.
Here's what's important. I think what you're trying to do is shift the responsibility.
Well, here's what's important. Wait, okay. I was a trial lawyer for 30 years. And here's a little thing. When you're doing a deposition, when you're taking testimony from a witness on the stand, if they don't answer directly, they're lying to you and attempting to distract. A clean CR is, brace yourself, clean. It has nothing but the continuing resolution itself. We will continue under the pre-existing Joe Biden budget for another 7 weeks. That's all it was. There's no poison pill. And of course, she couldn't name the poison pill. I don't know. It raises the eternal question. Is Representative Janelle Bynum dumb, or does she think her Democrat supporters are? I've got my theories. It is my great pleasure to welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show Senator Kevin Cramer of the great state of North Dakota. Senator Cramer, there are 2 states I have not been to in my life. One is Alaska.
I hear this
the other is North Dakota. Should I fix that?
You should fix it, but you should wait till February, because that's when that's when you get the most street cred for showing up in Alaska and North Dakota, 2 Arctic states that love Canada. And but I'm listening to your introduction of yourself, and I'm thinking, what do you do in your spare time? I mean, write books, retired colonel. It's awesome. Well, it's good to be with you.
Well, I stay warm is what I mostly do in my spare time. But Senator Cramer, let me ask you, when do you think this shutdown nonsense is going to end? When's Chuck Schumer and his gang going to cave? Because I know you guys aren't.
Yeah, by the way, isn't that one of the probably the most enlightening things about this whole 31 days of Groundhog's Day is that not one Republican in the House or the Senate has even flinched. I think it's going to be the middle of next week, Kurt, and I know that there's some reporting to that effect. I think there's good reason for that. You're seeing an uptick in both in conversation and some anxiety on the part of Democrats who can only afford to carry Chuck Schumer's paranoia so long. In fact, I thought it would last about a day or two. So I thought Starbucks would never make it, but so I'm not a great prognosticator, but I do think the middle of next week, middle to late next week, they'll find some rhetorical off ramp, claim victory of some sort. But I just don't think Democrats can tolerate having people who can't get their SNAP benefits or their home heating benefits or any number of other benefits, not to mention paying our troops, paying the federal employees. I just don't think they can tolerate that beyond next Tuesday's election.
Well, Senator Kramer, Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, a Democrat, is actually saying it openly. He's saying, "Hey, I'm going to see people who are not getting their food, and this is disturbing to me." He's been voting with you, but you're up there on the Hill. You know these people. You deal with these Democrats as a human being. Are any of them kind of taking you aside, going, "Hey, man, we gotta protect Chuck Schumer from AOC"?
Well, so maybe not in exactly those terms, but there's no question that there's been some conflict for a lot of them internally and then outwardly, quietly, but outwardly with what they're being forced to carry here. It is a classic example of Chuck Schumer and frankly, pragmatic Democrats being held hostage by the left wing, which, by the way, is not nothing. I mean, I understand their concern. I can tell that they're afraid because everything's about the primaries in today's elections. So I get that. But once next Tuesday's gone and it comes and goes, and by the way, speaking of next Tuesday, I mean, that race in New Jersey, that governor's race in New Jersey could be very telling. In fact, I would submit to you it's already very telling about how poorly this is playing out there with the general voting public in places even like New Jersey.
Well, look, I think your actions as Republicans speak louder than words. You guys are rock solid. I mean, you are rock solid from the far right all the way over to my beloved crush, Susan Collins, who I wrote a column about yesterday. She's I will take her any day from the great moose-related state of Maine. But you guys have stood solid. You've stood strong. And look, I'm a super hardcore conservative. I came up under Andrew Breitbart. I have no hesitation to criticize Republicans when they show tofu spine, weakness, or softness. You guys have been the Rock of Gibraltar. How's that happen?
So it's a great question because you're right. It's not intuitive. We tend to be pretty independent. That's part of what makes us conservatives. However, this is the easy button. I mean, honestly, how do you not easily support a continuing resolution, which is, as we, I think we're all learning, is the continuation of existing funding at existing levels, which is really a carryover from Joe Biden's last budget. How do you not do the easiest thing that has already passed the House of Representatives? Everything else is stupid beyond that, quite honestly. So it's really rather easy to stick together when you have this much moral high ground. And by the way, Kurt, I don't know of a time. I've been in Congress now. This is my 13th year. I came in during the 2013 year when the Senate held up this funding for the government over Obamacare. And then I came into the Senate in 2019 during a government shutdown. I was literally sworn in during a government shutdown. I've never seen Republicans have the moral high ground like we have on this one. And I think that's part of what has helped us stick together. That, and let's not forget, we have a commander-in-chief who is also the titular head of the Republican Party in Donald Trump. And it's a lot easier to stick together when you have a commander that commands that. And I'm going to give a big, big shout out to the Speaker of the House and to our Majority Leader, John Thune, who have just shown incredible leadership through this entire episode.
Well, that's another thing. Again, I represent the right wing of the Republican Party. I'm here on Hugh Hewitt's right flank, and I am thrilled with Mike Johnson and John Thune. I mean, look, I don't hesitate to criticize Republicans. That's part of what I do. But to put together, get the big, beautiful bill passed, and then to pass this against all odds, that's really kind of incredible. Maybe we should give them a little more credit.
Well, I think we should. However, I would say this. One of the things that you know when you have the presidency, and this is always a challenge for the party that has a presidency, and it's sort of a easy for the party that doesn't. To be the loyal opposition, by the way, is always easier. But when you consider that you have not just a president in Donald Trump, but a very active, big personality. I mean, travels the world like most people drink water. He's so energetic. It's hard to get into that shadow and be noticed much. That's okay, because at the end of the day, good policy makes for good politics. And that's what John Thune and Mike Johnson have been doing with their respective caucuses. And it's not easy, as you know. As I like to say, I do work with 99 people who think they should be president and me. And so, it's not easy to herd those kinds of cats, and they've done a masterful job. And one of the things that occurred to me yesterday, and no offense to people from New York, I have a lot of friends there. I do a lot of radio actually on WABC. And the reality is that we have leaders from South Dakota, Idaho, Oklahoma, in the House, obviously, Louisiana. Their two leaders in the House and the Senate are both from the same place. I call it Disney World, otherwise known as New York. So I think it's a reflection of our country, these guys. And then we all know what's going to happen unless something big can change that. We know what's going to happen in New York City. And then that's going to be the new face of the Democratic Party.
Well, Senator Kramer, the Senate Republicans work very well with Donald Trump, but they also jealously guard the prerogatives of the Senate, which you must. Last night, Donald Trump came out and dropped a true social message. Hey, it's time to use a nuclear option and end the filibuster. What do you say the chances are of the Republican Senate caucus nuking the filibuster?
I'd say there's no chance of that at all, nor should there be. I appreciate the president's frustration. He is an executive. He's the executive head of the country, but he's also an executive who doesn't have a lot of patience for a board of directors of 535. But at the same time, when our founders created the bicameral Congress and made this beautiful United States Senate with every state having equal power, they did so on purpose to make these things difficult. The filibuster is a rich part of that tradition, not created by the founders, but certainly the principle is. And the thing about it, I think that it's important for conservatives to remember.
Well, Senator Kramer, we're up against a hard break. I really appreciate it. Senator Kramer, Kevin Kramer from the great state of North Dakota. Happy Halloween. Little goo-goo muck action. Little rockabilly punk kind of stuff from the early 80s. Dwayne, what do you think of my bumper music choices today?
There's so many things you could have played. You could have played the Stranglers' Ghost Town.
Or the Specials.
Or the Specials, Ghost Town, yeah. You could have done that.
There's a lot of that, but I wanted to get a little twang going.
Okay, fine. Good.
Hey, can I play a cut for you?
Sure.
See what because I have opinions about this because I spent about 23 of my 27 years associated with the Cal Army National Guard. I went out and deployed in the LA riots, Northridge earthquake, commanded the forces in northern San Diego during the fire crisis in 2007. So this is kind of close to my heart. Number 9, Zoran Mondami.
How will you handle if it happens, if the National Guard or members of the U.S. military are actually deployed to New York City?
I think we first have to be clear that this is completely unacceptable and has nothing to do with the so-called justification of crime.
So the National Guard's got nothing to do with reducing crime.
I remember reducing crime.
I thought you kind of reduced crime in L.A. when you were deployed.
We reduced it quite effectively. My guys, National Guard guys who are mobilized are normal civilians who also have to meet all the standards of the military. Many of us had active duty. I had, my perfect attendance patch, right shoulder, when I got to the Guard because I was in Desert Storm. where I won medals for perfect attendance, just showing up, and washing trucks.
You know, I seem to remember this year alone, earlier in the summer, there was an anti-ICE set of riots in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And the National Guard were deployed to protect the federal buildings.
I remember. Are there riots now?
Did the federal buildings get attacked?
They did not.
But lots of other places did.
Many of them got attacked.
So the crime reduction around the federal buildings took place because of why again?
That would be the National Guard. You know, now you may think I'm crazy.
Oh, I don't think you're crazy.
You may think I'm kooky.
Maybe sometimes.
I'm thinking Zoran Mamdani may not really have his heart in on the whole suppressing crime thing. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm thinking Zoran Mamdani just wants the power, and then it's party time. I don't know what he's going to do with it once he gets it.
Yeah, Communist Party time.
Exactly.
Well,
Comrade, yes.
Look, how the Democrats got into a position where the choices came down to Zoran Mamdani or Andrew Cuomo.
The lesser of the two evils is the guy that killed Grandpa.
Yeah, the guy who literally killed thousands of old people is like the better choice than Mr. From the River to the Sea. Globalize the Intifada. Hey, high five. World Trade Center bomber guy. Yeah, great work, Democrat Party. Yeah, I don't know. I think now we need to move kind of from the maybe we can help stop this to how do we exploit the cautionary example that New York City is going to be?
Fence it all in and bring in Kurt Russell.
Well, look,
with an eye patch.
Escape from New York, one of my favorite movies.
That's what it's going to be like, right? How many people are going and businesses are going to flee New York over the next?
They're already
4
doing
years?
it. If you go to Connecticut, the Connecticut suburbs,
I bet business is booming there.
Apparently, the real estate is insane. They usually have 800 houses. There's like 100 available. People are just saying, "I am done with this. I don't want to have to swim through clouds of pot smoke, jump over hobos and their leavings, and pray I'm not robbed by misunderstood youths, as well as being taxed so people can ride buses for free."
Think of how well Chicago is administered by Brandon Johnson, except with somebody younger and less experienced.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much going to be Manhattan.
And you know it's going to be everybody else's fault.
Oh, of course.
It's like public schools are a disaster. Well, it's your fault for not giving us more money.
Well, it's going to be Donald Trump's fault. I mean,
it's always Donald Trump's fault.
It's always going to be Donald Trump's fault. I saw another clip today. I didn't grab it, but I saw another clip of Cory Booker being interviewed somewhere, New Jersey senator, and they were asking him, well, okay, so what about SNAP benefits? What about this? Why didn't you vote for a clean CR any one of the last 14 times? And he just paused for a second because he was being challenged. And he said, well, Donald Trump. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter what the rest of the answer was.
Somebody has got to find that cut from Forrest Gump where the Jenny's boyfriend comes up to Forrest Gump and the girl.
Yeah.
And he says, like, I'm sorry I smacked you around. It's LBJ in this damn war.
Yeah.
They're basically gumping it.
Well, you saw. I mean, the TDS is so advanced in our mutual friend Bill Kristol that he has now said that if he were still a resident of New York, he would vote for Mamdani.
Why did he move? Oh, wait.
Good. Yeah, exactly.
Well, look, Bill Kristol, who's so annoying, he called my books appalling. Right, he
blurbed your books.
He blurred my books. I use it as a blurb. I'm lying in bed with my wife, and I read that I'm a racist, ethno monster, and I turn to my Latinx immigrant wife, who used to be a model, by the way, and I say, "Honey, I've got some bad news for you," and I use his scathing assessment of my moral standing as a blurb. for my books. I figure if Bill Crystal hates my books, you'll love them.
It's a selling point.
And they're always bestsellers. Yeah. And I'm writing the 9th one as we speak. I'm writing another Kelly Turnbull novel called Panama Red. It should be out in before Christmas.
Ooh, Panama Red.
Lots of shooting, lots of making fun of leftists.
Are there drug boats in it?
Well, drug boats are a declining asset, a diminishing asset.
They seem to be, don't they?
Well, no, they're fishing boats because the old man in the sea took his fast boat out with 4 outboard engines to go get that shark. Hemingway was writing about it.
Yes.
I remember vaguely from high school.
And then to get the squid, they had to have the submersible, right?
Yes, because they're after the squid.
Right.
I got to tell you, not so broken up about blowing up people, importing poison into our country that kills our people. Am I insensitive?
And I'm even happier that Democrats, because Donald Trump is doing it, are now taking the side of the drug runners and looking for the due process rights of the drug runners.
I know. They're watching Scarface going, Tony Montana was actually
just misunderstood.
Is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So the American dream. If I was really creative, I'd have a big pile of baking soda here and plant my face in it. I'd go, Halloween is Tony Montana. My Cuban wife would slap me, though. She doesn't accept that kind of stereotyping. John, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Kurt. I'm excited about this Panama book you have coming out. I want to read that.
Well, you're going to help me with it because I actually called you to ask, how do certain ships work? Now, I don't want to give away the plot, but there's going to be some excitement and some antics on an LNG ship. So we'll have the 9th Kelly Turnbull novel is going to be explosive, so to speak. Hey, John, you can literally sail anything, correct? You hold a license that basically says if it floats, you can be at the helm. Am I assessing that correctly?
Any size ship, any ocean. I don't have a sail endorsement. Tall ships are not my thing, but anything with a motor, absolutely, any size.
Well, I have to congratulate you because you have really brought attention to not just the armed Navy, but the merchant marine and our commercial shipping, which is amateurs talk tactics, amateurs talk about fighting, professionals nail down the logistics. You guys in the merchant marine, and I know your wife was also a merchant mariner, you're the backbone of American force projection.
Yeah, 90% of everything the military transfers overseas goes in the merchant marine, and that's expected for the next war. I mean, it's, 5,000-6,000 miles to China or Taiwan. That can't come over on planes. The entire air cargo capacity of the entire Air Force is less than the cargo capacity of one Chinese-built megaship. And those forward air bases, Midway, Hawaii, you need to bring ship tankers in to refuel those air tankers. And, we're behind the 8 ball. Biden shut down the massive aviation and ship fuel facility in Hawaii after it leaked and poisoned children. So, that fuel that comes on ships is a critical part of here that the DoD is struggling to figure out.
I know you've been. I know people in the administration have talked to you, but when you talk, is the administration listening?
This is such a big problem. There's so many departments. There's Commerce, there's DOT, there's the NSC, there's, I met with OMB today. Jerry Hendricks and Mike Stumo doing an excellent job there.
Big friend of the show.
There's great guys. The problem is trying to coordinate this. It's like herding cats, and we are so far behind on so many of these aspects, while China is just pumping out ships like no country's ever done before in the history of the earth. So there's a lot going on, and the administration keeps getting blocked by these Democrats, shutting down the government and playing footsie with this massive ships act we need to get passed is not helping Trump's shipbuilding agenda. So I go between the most excited I've ever been in my 25-year career to the most depressed I've ever been. Not Trump's fault from the very top. He keeps pushing this, but trying to coordinate all this in such a massive logistical and industrial scale is a heavy lift.
Well, look, there is a initiative out there to build icebreakers in Finland and then have them start bringing that technology and that capability here to the United States. We have other allies that perhaps we can do something like that with also, but none of that's a substitute for building ships here at home. Are we going to be able to build up not only the infrastructure capacity, but the human infrastructure that we need to start putting hulls in the water?
Absolutely. It's a problem, and that's the big problem. The shipyard workers and the merchant mariners. The Navy laid up 17 logistic ships, Navy ships, last year because we don't have enough American ship captains and officers. And this is a problem that we need to solve immediately. But on the other side of it, we have, double the population we had in World War II when we built battleships. We have the people, we have the workforce, but the incentive is not there. The pay for a ship welder is only a little bit more than a regular welder. You have to move the family. We don't have the trade schools and technical schools anymore. So, every single piece of this problem, we're behind on, and Trump's trucking forward with all of this. But at some point, after years of Obama and Biden specifically, and people like Esper Milley in the first Trump administration, General Milley, selling all of our watercraft. The Army had a bigger fleet than the Navy, so when the Merchant Marine held back, the generals say, well, the Army has it, but he sold them off at auction. So there's a lot of work to do.
John, we're up against a hard break. We could go on and on because we are a maritime radio show here at the Hugh Hewitt Show, even though I'm a retired Army colonel. The International Fellowship of Christian and Jews. Today's a very special day, and not because it's Halloween. This is the last day of Hugh's campaign for the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. What do? They help out the people of Israel, hostages, hostage families, soldiers, just regular folks. They help them with the psychological trauma, the physical injuries, the economic chaos that was caused by October 7th and the horror that befell the country then. We're in our final hours now, but there's still time for you to go to HughHewitt.com, make a tax-deductible donation, a $25, $50, whatever amount you can, to help the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews do this important work. Remember, it's the final day of Hugh's campaign. I'm asking for your help right now. You can tell the people of Israel that you're with them by supporting the fellowship today. There's a banner posted on top of our homepage at HughHewitt.com. Just go there, click it, make your donation. Or you can make a generous gift of any amount you wish to support the IFCJ by phone at this special number, 800-492-1717. That's 800-492-1717. One more time. Thank you from all of us here at the Hugh Hewitt Show. Now, we're hoping we'll be joined in a moment by our guest, Sean Davis. He should be getting on now. And then we'll talk a little about something that's frankly driving me up the wall, and that's this whole Arctic frost thing. Jack Smith went absolutely bats. Oh, wait, we're joined with let's bring Sean up. Hi, Sean Davis of the Federalist. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
How are you? Thank you for having me. I apologize for the delay there.
Well, family chaos. It's better
that time of day.
Sometimes I'll be doing a hit, and Barky and Bitey, the dogs, will decide that there's a giant threat, like a little kid or a squirrel, and then it's kooky time. But look, we were talking about Arctic frost, and you've been great on Twitter talking about what Judge Boasberg did. Now, you may remember Judge Boasberg from such hits as Maryland Man and other atrocities. What did he do in Arctic frost that's an outright violation of the law?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I'm still actually kind of shocked by it. So he was actually part of this whole warrant against U.S. senators, the spying on U.S. senators and going after their telecoms, their emails, their phones. And he actually sent an order to AT&T specifically about Ted Cruz's phone in the Senate, his office landline, and said, "Don't you dare tell anyone. You're not allowed to tell anyone about this. If you do, it's a violation of the law." It turns out that that specific gag order was itself a violation of the law, that there's a federal law, 2 U.S.C. 6628, that actually requires anyone who receives notice of Senate data or communications being collected that they must inform the U.S. Senate, because the Senate needs to be able to litigate its rights as the legislative branch against intrusions. And that same law says that if upon notice the Senate gets that its communications are being collected, if it goes to federal court and makes a motion to quash that subpoena or that warrant or that order, federal courts are required to quash subpoenas collecting Senate data. So there's a reason that Boasberg put that gag order in, is that he didn't want the Senate to vindicate its rights because he knew the subpoena would be invalid. So I'm shocked by the brazenness and audacity of his violation of federal law with that gag order.
Now, Sean Davis, who is required to report to the Senate? Would it be AT&T? Would it be Jack Smith? Would it be somebody else? And who at the Senate are they reporting to?
Yeah, so the law requires anyone who is collecting this data to inform the Senate, the Sergeant of Arms. There's different offices in there. So I would say, yes, AT&T, Verizon, all these were probably obligated to do it. We know that Verizon actually went and hoovered up the data and gave it to the government. AT&T, to their small amount of credit, declined. But yes, it's the Sergeant of Arms generally who kind of manages the data and stuff for the Senate. So the Sergeant of Arms should have been informed, at which point the Sergeant of Arms has to inform the Senate. I imagine if nearly a fifth of the Republican conference had known it was being spied on by Jack Smith, the U.S. Senate formally, with its Senate counsel, absolutely would have gone to court to quash that motion. So it is just shocking that Boasberg, who has to be aware of these laws, it's his only job. It is shocking to me that he went through and did this, because it certainly looks like he knew what would happen if the Senate found out, and he was willing to go to any length possible, illegal or otherwise, to make sure they never found out.
Well, Sean, you know, for every wrong, there's supposed to be a remedy. What do we do about this? This sounds like worse than Watergate. This is an atrocity.
Yeah, I would say this whole Arctic frost scandal is bigger than Watergate in the same way that the Pacific Ocean is bigger than your bathtub. It dwarfs it in every possible dimension. Now, whether there are specific statutory remedies, like, for example, if a rogue federal judge goes in and violates the federal law to deprive the Senate of its constitutional rights, I don't think there's a specific thing in statute that says here's what you get to do. We do, however, have mechanisms in the Constitution for dealing with corrupt rogue judges. The main punishment, of course, is impeachment. Boasberg needs to be impeached. He needs to be impeached and put on trial, and he needs to be removed by the Senate, because this behavior cannot be tolerated by an officer of the court.
Well, I think it'd be very hard. Well, I think it'd be interesting to put Democrats in the hot seat of saying, why, yes, you can totally wiretap any of us without remedy if you feel like it. I mean, man, it'd be great to give Trump that power, wouldn't it? We got about 15 seconds. What do you think the Democrats would do in that conundrum?
Yeah, we don't want kings, right? We can't have kings running roughshod over the Constitution. I'm sure Democrats would be fine with it.
Yeah, I'm sure they would too. Thank you, Sean Davis, co-founder, CEO of The Federalist. Follow him at Sean M. Dave, D-A-V, on the Twitter machine. Keep up with all your Arctic frost atrocity info. I'm a big fan of pop music. I'm also a fan of poetry. And we have our poet laureate here, Tarzana Joe. Tarzana Joe, do you have something for us?
I do. A couple of things, actually. You know what really scares people on Halloween? Putting together their Christmas gift list. And I have the solution for that. Something when people drop over that you have handy, a stocking stuffer. Nothing like the best of Tarzana Joe. It only hurts when I rhyme. And the sequel, the second best of Tarzana Joe. All the collected poems from the Hugh Hewitt show.
Wow,
so,
that is quite a stocking stuffer, or on Halloween, stalking stuffer. Get it? See,
I like it. I like it.
And
here's today's poem. I was born in New York City and grew up nobody's fool. I developed urban radar and took subway trains to school. I didn't have no baby bottle. I was brought up on a flask. In hockey, I played goalie and I didn't wear a mask. I locked monsters in their closets and I never feared the dark. I ate pizza from Hell's Kitchen and I strolled through Central Park. So shout, I'm from the IRS, or simply holler boo. I promise I won't shiver. It's not something that I do. But run a politician that you tell me is enlightened, and I'm shaking in my wellies, 'cause that's what makes me frightened. He says he's got a program that will work if it's just tried. All it takes is some new taxes to get taken for a ride. You're so hungry for a leader, he says he's the guy to feed you. The wolves are on the doorstep, and that's just where he'll lead you. So I beg you to consider, from the Bronx to Bowling Green, please be careful, New York City, as you hallow Halloween. Of the goblins and the gremlins, I advise you to be wary. But a zealot-handed power, that is really scary. That's Scare Tactics in New York City by Tarzana Joe.
Well, Tarzan Joe, I'm a shivering. If somebody wants to commission a poem, how do they go about doing that?
They go to tarzanajoe.com and navigate to the I Want a Poem page, fill in the form, and I will contact you.
Well, you can, and yet another Christmas gift option. Thank you, Tarzan Joe. Hey, Dwayne, what do you think of the show? Because we're going to switch over to Hillsdale with Larry Arnn next.
Hugh's back with Dr. Larry Arnn. That would be kind of fun. Great show. Lots of, again, there's never a shortage of topics to talk about.
Yeah, it's bizarre. My show prep consists of just being.
Just showing up and experiencing the news. That's exactly right.
Well, it's a special time we can all share.